The barn groaned and crackled under the hungry roar of fire, orange tongues climbing higher into the midnight sky while sparks rained like a storm of angry stars, and inside the choking heat and darkness a woman beat her fists against the locked door until her palms bled, her cries swallowed by the inferno and the panicked screams of horses. Outside, a cowboy spurred his stallion hard down the dirt trail, the smell of smoke already clinging to his coat, his hat pulled low as he leaned into the ride, heart pounding with the grim certainty that if he was a minute too late, she'd be gone. He leapt from the saddle before the horse even stopped, tore a bandana around his face, and pushed through the wall of smoke, his boots sinking into the burning straw as he shouldered the door until the lock snapped with a sharp clang. Through the haze he saw her, hair plastered to her face, coughing, eyes wide with terror, and without a word he swept her into his arms, feeling her fragile frame trembling against the strength of his chest. Flames licked at his coat and the rafters cracked above them, but he lowered his head and charged back through the rolling smoke, carrying her as if she weighed nothing, the barn collapsing just as he broke into the cool night air. The woman clung to him, sobbing against his shirt as he staggered clear, the glow of destruction behind them, and for a moment the world seemed still except for the beat of his heart and the way her fingers gripped his shoulders like she would never let go. He set her gently on the ground, brushing the soot from her face, his own eyes red from smoke, and in that silence, with fire snapping in the distance and his horse stamping nervously, she looked up at him as though he had ridden straight out of a dream, her voice hoarse but certain as she whispered, "You saved me." He tipped his hat, breathing hard, his voice low and steady when he answered, "Ma'am, I reckon no flame on earth was gonna take you tonight," and though the night was still thick with ash and danger, something unspoken sparked between them brighter than the fire he had just ridden through. The night settled heavy with smoke and silence as the barn crumbled into a heap of glowing embers, its collapse sending sparks spiraling toward the stars, and the cowboy, still catching his breath, pulled off his bandana to wipe the sweat and soot from his brow while the woman, trembling, tried to steady her hands on the cool grass beneath her. She coughed hard, her lungs fighting the smoke she had breathed in, and when she finally raised her eyes to him, there was gratitude there, but also fear, the kind that lingered after knowing how close death had stood. Why were you even here?" she managed, her voice rasping like dry paper. He gave a half-smile, soft but tired, settling onto one knee beside her. "Heard the crackle from my ridge. Fire don't wait on a man to ask questions." She studied him in the flickering light, noticing the soot smeared across his jaw, the singed edge of his coat, the steadiness of his eyes that seemed carved from both storm and stone, and before she could thank him again, a horse's panicked cry drew her gaze back to the wreckage. The cowboy stood, offering his calloused hand to her, lifting her gently to her feet as though she might break, then whistled sharp through his teeth. His stallion trotted near, muscles quivering, eyes wild from the smoke but loyal to the sound of his master's call. Without hesitation he lifted her up into the saddle, swung up behind her, and with a firm tug of the reins turned the horse toward open land where the air was clearer. As they rode, the cool wind brushed her cheeks, carrying away the ash, and with every pounding hoofbeat she realized how close she had come to never breathing fresh air again. She leaned back slightly, not from weakness but from a strange, steadying trust in the man who held the reins and had ridden through fire to reach her, and though neither spoke much on that ride, their silence was filled with something deeper than words, a promise that this was not the last night fate would draw their paths together.